Imagine a single house sitting entirely alone on the crest of a low hill. From this incredible height, the river and the fields below are swallowed completely by the scale of the valley. Lencho, the farmer who lives there, knows his fields intimately. But this morning, he has spent hours doing exactly one thing, studying the sky toward the northeast, just waiting for the natural world to deliver the rain his crops desperately need. For a subsistence farmer, the weather is a literal financial transaction. Looking at the heavy drops beginning to fall, Lencho sees more than water. To him, the big drops are 10-cent pieces hitting dirt, and the small ones are fives. When your family's survival relies entirely on the water cycle, watching the clouds becomes a daily practice of absolute expectant faith. In this valley, nature is the only provider. But that gentle, promising rain suddenly hardens. A strong wind begins to blow, and those heavy drops turn into jagged, icy hailstones. For a full hour, the hail batters the house, the hillside, and the valley. When the storm finally passes, the corn is completely destroyed. The field is stripped of all its color, covered in a stark white sheet of ice that looks like salt. Lencho stands in the middle of the ruined harvest and does the math. Without those crops, there is no food and no income. Starvation is now a mathematical certainty for his family. When the natural world completely collapses around an isolated individual, they are left in a terrifying vacuum. The physical earth has failed, forcing them to look somewhere else entirely for salvation. Instead of collapsing into despair, Lencho leans on his limited education. He decides to write a letter to the only authority he believes can fix the situation. Lencho outlines the disaster with the precision of a merchant. He details the exact cause of his loss and specifies a 100 peso payment as the only way to keep his family alive until the next harvest. He addresses the envelope to God, walks into the town, buys a stamp, and drops it into the local mailbox. He is attempting to resolve a catastrophe through a mundane bureaucratic procedure. There is a strange contradiction in using a physical object, ink and paper, to try and command the attention of an infinite, invisible entity. He is trying to bridge the gap between the soil and the heavens with a fragile postage stamp. The letter lands in the loud, bustling environment of the town post office, standing in stark contrast to Lencho's isolated hill. The postman shows it to his boss. The postmaster reads the address and breaks out laughing, but the humor quickly fades into a heavy, solemn awe at the sheer scale of the sender's conviction. Determined not to shatter that trust, the postmaster attempts his own version of an answer. He gives up part of his own salary and asks his employees and friends to chip in for an act of charity. Despite the massive effort, they can only gather 70 pesos. They seal the cash and attach a forged signature. God. By hiding behind a forged signature, the postmaster transforms a human sacrifice into a supernatural event. He ensures his own labor is forgotten so that Lencho's worldview can remain intact. The following Sunday, Lencho arrives at the post office slightly early. The postmaster watches closely from his office in hopeful anticipation of seeing the farmer's gratitude for the divine gift. But when the clerk hands over the envelope, Lencho shows zero surprise. When you operate with absolute certainty, there is no room left for wonder. He counts the cash and finds only 70 pesos. In Lencho's mind, an infallible deity cannot make a math error and certainly would not deny his exact request. Furious, he immediately drafts a second letter demanding the remaining 30 pesos. But he adds a strict instruction to God: do not send it through the mail, because the postal workers are a bunch of crooks. Lencho's absolute faith in the divine creates a specific kind of blindness. Because he expects perfection from the heavens, he is unable to see or even imagine the flawed grace of the human beings standing right in front of him.